Ever since the FBI raid on Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago, extreme right-wing groups have been flooding social media, TikTok, YouTube, and the rest with claims of coming violence, even threatening a civil war. What is going on here? Here to talk about all of this, Laura Italiano. She is senior correspondent for Insider. Laura, this reaction from the extreme right is surprising to a lot of people, but explain what's going on.
Well, I don't think it's surprising that there has been a backlash from the extreme right. But I'll tell you, David, what surprised me was where you're seeing some of that backlash, and that's on mainstream online sites, like you're saying, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, where some violent ideas, calls to lock and load, calls to fight back by any means necessary, display of assault rifles, are part of what you see and what the monitors on this site are often a few thousand views behind in finding and taking down.
It suggests that there's a total lack of understanding or perhaps even respect now for institutions like the courts. It came out, of course, very quickly to people who didn't know better that you need a federal judge to sign off on this warrant. A federal judge did sign off on this warrant, found probable cause that Donald Trump committed perhaps espionage. There's all sorts of information about the crown jewels of US classified information that Donald Trump took with him. Mm-hmm. One would think if you're taking out Donald Trump out of the equation and you just think, okay, politician steals documents, that most people across the spectrum would support some sort of FBI raid or some sort of justice. What is it about Donald Trump that makes him so unique?
Well, I think if any of us were in the fact silo that a lot of far right adherents live in, you would be outraged too, right? I mean, you hear that, and all of this is false or completely unsupported by evidence. You hear that the FBI may have planted evidence that was an idea touted by Donald Trump's own lawyer on Fox. You hear that the IRS is, arming its agents as part of a war of the woke government against law-abiding gun owners. So, you hear some of these theories, and they are coming out of the Trump camp. They are coming out of Trump supporters, and they're coming from Donald Trump himself in his Truth Social site, talking about.
And it's also illogical, right? I mean, the idea that the FBI, if they were gonna, and look, the FBI and police have a long history of planting evidence. So I'll agree with that. But the idea that they would plant classified nuclear secrets, why would they plant classified nuclear? I mean, some of this just doesn't make any sense. And initially, it's all they're planning, now then they're not planning. Was classified? Sure. No. Donald Trump had the power to declassify it. No, there was a total hoax. It feels like the defense has been changing so much that would somehow perhaps tamp down whatever enthusiasm and outrage some people on the right might have had.
You're absolutely right. How could the FBI plant evidence that, I mean, if it's in the top secret classification, a lot of the most secret documents have to be carried around in locked bags. I mean, how would that even work, planting this material? And I think we're gonna see as this case nears a possible criminal charge and court proceeding, we're going to see chain of custody on those documents that show exactly how they leapt from whatever locked bag they may have originated in to Donald Trump's possession, perhaps in his White House, to a box that then went to Mar-a-Lago. I'm sure that if this does reach the stage of a criminal case, that there will be a chain of custody established, and I would imagine to show where.
And I would imagine if some of these right-wing groups have freaked out this much just over an FBI raid, one can only imagine the reaction if there is an actual indictment and criminal charges brought against Donald Trump, how much the reaction might sort of spasm out of control.
How would that even work, right? You wonder, because Donald Trump has been able to avoid appearing in person on any number of civil actions against him, lawsuits and such. He does, he can take a deposition in private and not walk into a courtroom. But if he is criminally charged, if that happens, he's going to have to walk into a courtroom. And what will happen at the defense table? Will there be a Secret Service sitting next to him?
There's a lot of chatter for people who are sort of following the case and trying to figure out what was Donald Trump's motive. Was it really as simple as, he wanted secrets that he could sell to the Saudis, or he wanted secrets that he could sort of hold on because he thought it was kind of cool to have them? Is there much discussion among these right-wing groups about a motive for Donald Trump taking things from the White House? Or is it just completely, this is all a hoax, Donald Trump has been framed?
I think you see a mix of Donald Trump has been framed with false evidence, and you also see, well, hell, he's president of the United States and it's his stuff, which is what Trump himself kind of argues. It's my stuff, and I said it was okay for me to have it, so therefore, I was president when I did that, and it's therefore okay. Glossing over the top secret nature that we're being told, of these documents, that they are basically radioactive as far as a member of the public, as a former president is a member of the public, even having them in his possession.
How much of a recruiting tool for the Oath Keepers, the Proud Boys, other groups on the right has this particular raid been?
Well, you see the people, agencies, nonprofits and organizations that monitor extremism, and it's a booming business. There are a lot of people who do this for a living now, watching extremism, sounding warnings about rises in extremism. And they say that it's been a huge increase directly from Mar-a-Lago, and a lot of people, a lot of angry people are posting, well, if this happened to the president of the United States, it could happen to any of us, and the FBI can walk into our home and serve a warrant, which has obvious logical problems.
And well, yeah, because the FBI, they can do that. If a prosecutor, somebody goes to the FBI or police and says, look, we think that this person is stashing something illegal, or they have weapons they're not entitled to, of course, the judge can sign a warrant and they can come in.
The seizure of illegal property, illegally held property.
Do you get a sense in terms of, was this just sort of a bubbling sort of feeling on the right that was just sort of looking for some excuse to sort of explode, or is this something particular about Donald Trump and the circumstances of this raid that is causing all of this to erupt?
Well, you do see a simmering anger. You do see an anger on the left and on the right, although, on the right, it's extreme, and you hear calls for anti-government action and violence even. And I think we're gonna see this. It's just a fact of the temperature out there, and every now and then it may, like it did on January 6th, coalesce around a time and a place, and perhaps get ugly again.
You mentioned that the sort of the amount of vitriol information that's sort of coming out there, and that there are groups that are nonprofit groups, so they're trying to watch it. But it sounds like also there's not enough of these nonprofit groups that they can't keep up with the flow of how intense this information has been.
Well, the people who need to really need to be keeping track of the flow are your Twitters and YouTubes and TikToks, and they are. I mean, they are trying to stamp these things out. But they're always a few inches behind, I think, a few hundred views behind before they can take the site down. And then you have sites like 4chan and 8chan and, openly white nationalist and anti-Semitic and neo-Nazi websites that aren't doing any monitoring at all. And so, anything goes, and there's not a lot of action, that can be taken about those,
And so monitoring the dark web, as people call them, I mean, that really is, the advantage for groups is that, their communications are largely walled off from prosecutors. The downside for groups is that, it's not as in the mainstream, it may not necessarily help them recruit. It's people like-minded folks talking to one another.
Unless there's a specific and credible threat, made in one of these posts a credible meaning, it's not just somebody saying, oh, I hate the FBI, but a specific and credible threat, then it's still America, and you're entitled to your opinion.
The people who are making these threats of civil war violence, are they providing enough specific information that would enable federal prosecutors, Department of Justice, to be able to track them down and say, okay, this person actually is threatening the sitting president of the United States, members of Congress, or is it more vague?
I'm told that it can take days and even a week or more for an anonymously made threat to be tracked down, and often the government, the FBI usually handles these. The FBI will need to get a court order for the geolocation, the IP address, in order to put a name to whoever's making the threat.
You get the sense that this stuff gets tamped down or dies down if Donald Trump does not run for re-election?
I don't know. I don't know. I can imagine him still being in the sidelines, agitating, even if he's not, directly in the race. So I suspect Donald Trump's going to be around for a while, and and stoking these embers, and there will be flare-ups.
Yeah, my fear is that it's not just about Donald Trump personally, but there is something that's sort of structurally or institutionally inherent in this sort of vitriol and racism, and that Donald Trump is just sort of the vehicle for carrying it, and that another ideologue or somebody who seems to appeal to fascism could light a spark under this stuff as well.
Well, for now, Donald Trump is making a lot of money off of this. Yeah. We saw the news accounts where he's raising $1 million a day in some of the days immediately preceding the Mar-a-Lago raid in campaign donations or donations to his super PACs. So he has no incentive or little incentive to temper what he's saying.
Laura Italiano, Senior Correspondent for Insider. Laura, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
And thank you, David.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.